Hello.
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 And welcome to another episode of Have You Seen? With Nick and Lance.
And Lance, yeah.
Yeah. So, this week, last week,
Well,
several weeks,
2 weeks ago.
I asked Nick, hey Nick,
Mm-hmm.
have you seen Happy Death Day?
And at the time, I hadn't.
But now,
We have. Sat down and watched that one tonight, as it were.
yep. And then we were going to record it, and the rain was so loud, and Mother Nature was popping off, and we said, we're just going to sit around and watch another movie.
And, yeah, give it time for the weather to calm down.
Yeah. And we have about an hour window, so before
If this one gets snipped a little short, it'll be because the rain's loud.
if it just suddenly goes off, we lost power, and we're too lazy to do it again. So
Well, I don't think we'll lose power because we're powering off that.
True. Okay.
At least we won't lose the recording because we're not based on having power.
Okay.
Little things.
Well, laptops, technology.
So, Happy Death Day.
Yes.
So, this was one that probably a few months ago you showed me some trailers just to be like, hey, I've got a few movies in my head and I just want to see if any of these are ones you've seen. So, you showed me the trailer and I'm like, okay. Groundhog Day, but with murder.
Yes.
And I was like, all right, I'm in it. And then, weeks passed and I'm like, that left brain. And I think it left both of our brains because then, we were sitting down 2 weeks ago and you're like, I was going to ask, I'm trying to think of movies to make you ask. I'm like, well, this was one that you pulled up at some point in time. And you're like, yes, I want to do that one.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to so we're going to go ahead and do the numbers. Mm-hmm. Just one more time for posterity.
Every time for posterity.
Yeah. Because you never know who's the first video. So we're going to go ahead and give our rating of the movie 0 to 10. 0 being the movie's absolute dog shit, and 10 being like, oh my god, I need a cigarette and a chicken leg because that was so good. And
5 being nice and average. 5 is average. 5's not bad. 5's just average.
Middle of the road. Not the greatest time, but worth a watch.
Now you might watch it and be like, oh, okay, and then just never think about it again.
Yeah. So we like to guess.
Yes, we'll play a little guessing game.
So Nick, what would you give from 0 to 10 Happy Death Day?
So I was waffling a little bit, but I think I settled in on a 6 in that I enjoyed it. I don't know that I'll revisit it a bunch, but sometime in the future I might come back and revisit that one just because it's...
I thought you might have liked it a little bit more than that.
No, it was good. I liked the movie.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a mystery. So then once you kind of know what the mystery is, it's kind of like, oh, okay.
I mean, they did enough leadaways, and they made her wholly unlikable to where there could have been.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of different people who could be out to get her. So they did good enough with that one, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well,
so what did you give?
So
Happy Death Day.
This is one of those movies that it's a guilty pleasure of mine. Whenever I see it on TV, I sit and watch it. So
yeah, I might have gone too low then.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I give the movie a 9.
Oh yeah, I definitely gave it low.
Okay, so we were 2 off.
2 off each.
Yeah, you were too lower and I was too higher.
I figured this is one that you like. It's pretty good, and that's where I'm like, oh okay. You seem to think it was pretty good, and that's where I put I put a 7s. 7s are pretty good.
Well, the only reason the movie's so spoiler territory.
Yeah. We're gonna start. Give you time to pause. So this, I think this is worth a watch. So if you're into horror movies, it's kind of a horror comedy.
Yeah.
But with a little bit of mystery in it, because it's kind of like who's the killer.
Yeah.
And you're kind of it's fun to sit and watch, and I'd say it's worth a watch. If you're not into horror at all, maybe it's very light on the horror for the slasher aspects of it. Very small.
Yeah,
if you're squeamish with blood, I don't think you're gonna have a super hard trouble with this one.
No, they undercut a lot of the really kind of horror elements with comedy. So it's a Blumhouse movie, and they do a lot of tongue in cheek stuff. So
worth a watch.
Yeah, worth a watch. Go away, watch it, come back,
and join us. You had 2 weeks.
Subscribe, all that shit.
You're only person blames you for not watching it.
We should just barrel straight through at this point. It's We told you what we're watching.
But, again, this could be the first time they're joining us for Have You Seen. I want them to know that this formula, we give you 2 weeks to track down the movie. Watch it with us if you want to watch it with us. Otherwise, just hear what we have to say about it.
Like, how many movies do we have to review before we finally, fuck it, and we just, give our little ratings and then we just barrel right in?
Probably when we have more than a dozen subscribers.
That's fair. That's fair. Like, subscribe, comment, all that shit.
Yeah. So, getting into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty early on, it kind of gave the list of the killers. And then, after her first day, I'm like, okay, I think I got who it is.
Okay.
100%.
Really?
Yeah, I nailed that one.
Okay. So, I didn't detect it until you run into her, at the hospital itself.
No, that was day one.
Well, so, like I said, they make her so unlikable. It's like the list could be huge.
It's got a pretty big list. It's kind of got is it the boy that you just woke up with? Is it the maybe the friend for some reason?
Yeah.
Is it the one of the probably the people that she's walking through? I didn't suspect any of that during the walkthrough to be here's where she learns the order of the day so that she can see that she's repeating the day. It's sprinklers come on, car alarm, passes. I'm like, those guys are fine. But then you see the ex date or whatever, she went on one date with this guy. I'm like, okay, he could be one. Then it's the sorority sister. I'm like, okay, it could be the sorority sister. Maybe it's the sorority sister that she snubs every day. Because she comes up and every day that little girl would wave at her, but she's just kind of whatever. So I mean, it could be her. I mean, would have been one of those kind of it's you.
Yeah, super outside on that.
So it could have been potentially that one, the sorority kind of runner, I guess, because she seems to kind of be the one in charge.
Yeah.
Then you had the roommate.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the professor.
Yes, and then the wife of the professor.
And then also maybe the father.
Yeah.
I mean, the father could have been in the running. So maybe 10 people.
And then the killer. The guy.
Oh well, they don't introduce him
until halfway through the movie.
Yeah, which is why I was when it finally introduced oh, it's this guy. I'm like, well, you can't predict. They just introduce that guy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's it's kind of stupid if this is the guy, isn't it? Because I mean, he just showed up and there's no mystery involved because it's here are your 10 suspects. Who was it? That was the 27th suspect. Well, we only had 10 suspects. Okay, you didn't. Too bad you didn't predict.
Yeah, that's true. So it reminds me when you say it that way, that there's a book that I read when I was younger. I really liked the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And I went back and read the book.
Oh, Who Censored Roger Rabbit?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was far and away from what the movie was, but I was so curious that I just basically pushed through that book because it's a pretty dry read.
Well, I mean, it's also based off of comic strips, not cartoons, right?
I believe so.
Because they talk through word bubbles or something like that. And didn't he get murdered by a word bubble?
I believe it's been a really long time since
I've never read it. I've just heard people talk about it.
What I do remember from the book, and this is a spoiler for the book.
No one's reading Who Censored Roger Rabbit.
No one reads anymore. At the end of the book, you find out that the killer is a genie. And it's they introduce him, and he's like, yes, it was me. And it's the fuck, dude? Because literally they're trying to...
You weren't in the book at all up to that point?
As far as I can remember, it's they didn't talk about him at all. And then, and I don't even remember what the reason was why he did it. But, it was you go down all these false paths, and then you find out it was a genie in, the last 2 chapters. Or something stupid like that. But,
yeah, that's a very... If you're going to do a mystery, don't do that. I mean, maybe you'll pull one out on your audience, oh, you thought it was all these people, but turns out it was guy you never saw before. I'm like, how do I?
It's I feel like somebody in the pitch meeting, they were we want to do this book, Who Censored Roger Rabbit. It's going to have real elements and it's going to have cartoon elements, and we're going to blend it, and it's going to look great. Oh, that's a great idea. And someone read the book and went, this is trash. I think we could do better.
We'll take the concept and run with it and do something better with it.
But yeah, I can agree with you on that assessment. It is fairly easy to figure out. So the reason I love this movie so much, the main character, the girl who plays Tree, her name is Jessica Roth. And I love her. For a movie that's... Honestly, the only reason I watched this movie is because Tim was like, hey man, have you seen this movie? And I was like, no. And he's like, it's really good. And I was like, okay, yeah. It's good, And then I went and actually watched it, and I called him, and I was like, dude, this movie's fucking dope. you know, because I just didn't expect it to be that good, especially for Blumhouse, because Blumhouse does make some campy shit.
I don't think I'm super familiar with a lot of Blumhouse stuff.
So they did the Fantasy Island movie. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, her name is Jessica Roth, and she is awesome. She's in she leaves it all out there. Like, to me, like every bit of emotion that she gives in that movie, she's just adorable, and like she's a really good actress. Like, I was going through her IMDb page. She does not have a lot of credits to her name or anything that's really like super noteworthy.
No.
And that's a fucking shame because she is very talented. You have the guy, Carter Davis, who's played by Israel Boussard. And he looks familiar. I went through his IMDb and not a lot popped out at me on that. And there's a lot of people that are like...
There wasn't a lot of faces that were super recognizable to me.
Yeah,
like pretty much anyone. They were all newish faces to me.
Yeah, like there's one or two people, like the guy that played the boyfriend that kept like popping up on her. Like, that guy looks somewhat familiar to me. And just doing a quick look. Yeah, he was in like Badlands, The Last Ship, Tenet, Birds of Prey. That was a spoiler that I don't want you to know. He's in Joe Dirt. Oh my God, such a good movie. Dang.
I don't like that one. But pretty much anything with David Spade in it is mostly going to be a thumbs down for me.
Hey Nick, have you seen a random David Spade movie?
If you can't even get his name right, you can...
Yeah, okay, good, fair point. So here's the part that's somewhat surprising. So apparently he's in Hawkeye.
Who was he?
He's a stuntman, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Who's that? The Tim guy?
Yeah, it's the boyfriend.
Okay.
The guy that's like, why didn't you call? And she's like, you took me to Subway.
Yeah. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. His name's Caleb Spilliards. And I thought he was pretty funny. And then the little girl, Tran. That's her name, Tran, but a character.
Oh, the one that was sitting out on the porch.
Yeah, but apparently her name is character's name is Emily. Anyways, I just think that girl is so good. Like when she's sitting in the cop car, when she's screaming, I'm like, what are you waiting for? What are you who the fuck are you? Like she's spitting, like she's fully into it. And there had to have been something in the back of her head that was like, why am I giving so much to a movie that seems kind of campy? It's a babyface killer dude.
Yeah, these movies are fun.
Yeah. And I love the flick. I think she's just, every time she makes a face, she's fucking adorable. I'm in love with her. And then like she's even cuter in Happy Death Day 2. And I think I don't have to challenge you to watch that movie at this point.
Maybe not. I mean, it also depends on where that one can also be seen. Because if it's come over here and watch it with you, I mean, that's a lot easier than me tracking it down somewhere. Because this one's Prime Video, so essentially I'd have to either rent it or buy it.
Well, just come over here and watch it.
Yeah.
And then we'll just do a review on it just because.
Maybe we could probably do that one.
Yeah.
So this one is watch on FX Now. Who the fuck has FX Now? Or rent/buy on Prime Video. So that's another one where it'd be own it.
FX Now's free, isn't it?
I don't know what it is. I don't want to go to fxnetworks.com. Like I don't want to sign up for another fucking thing.
It doesn't matter. You're gonna come over here and watch
it.
it.
Yeah, I'll come over here. Let's come over here and watch it at some point in time. And maybe we'll just do a co-video on it or something.
Yeah, there you go. But
we still need to make you watch Fear Street because I think what's your buddy Franklin?
Yeah,
I think he said like, hey, you should watch the other two Fear Street movies.
Well, it's like what he mainly told me is he was like, I watched your review and I'm glad you liked the movie. And he's like, if you really like the soundtrack of the first movie, you're gonna love the soundtrack in the second, and I think said third movie as well. And I'll watch them. It's just I'm so backed up.
Oh yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the amount of stuff that's out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of the. I'd say that movie's in my top 10, not favorite movies of all time, but it's definitely
like horror movies, whatever.
Yeah, well, it's definitely in my top 10 of like, if it's on somewhere, I will sit down and watch it.
Well, nowadays, who really like? Do you watch TV?
We don't know.
Yeah,
not really.
There's not really like flipping through channels anymore. It's pretty much anything I watch, I make a decision to be like, this is it. unless like I'm watching YouTube and then it's like, and here's the next video, and I can't reach the remote fast enough to be like, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fair. That's definitely a fair assessment. I'm still in the mindset of like, back in the day, whenever somebody would just put it on a random channel on TV, and then you like walk through the house and you're like, oh,
I don't miss that.
no,
Because you got to the like early on, you'd have like 12 channels and be like, oh, I'm gonna find something to watch, and you couldn't find anything to watch. You'd be like, well, I guess TV is screwy, and then you go do something. But then it got to the point where there's like maybe like 200 channels, and you're like, I can find something.
yeah,
And then it got to the point where it's like 3,000 channels, and you're just kind of like, I mean, I could watch this, but this is also on. But then, maybe I could be watching this, and then your attention split between a bunch of things, and
yeah, yeah, that's true. I preferred back in the day. The only thing I like about these days with like everything on demand is I can pause it and just go take a piss.
that's why that streaming to me wins. But I like early streaming when Netflix was the streaming service and everything was on Netflix, or just not streaming at all.
It's true.
And you could still go to Best Buy and like buy movies.
Mm.
Oh, well, like went to go see Thor: Love and Thunder and had a discussion about like you mentioned like, have you seen Best Buy lately? It's sad. I'm like, I haven't been to Best Buy lately. So I went and checked their movie section, and it was like 12 DVDs.
Yeah.
The selection was new movies and like no back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is
It's
awful.
It's a shadow of what it used to be.
Because I was thinking of like going. I'm like, I really enjoyed Ghostbusters. That might be one like I would buy, but I don't necessarily want to own it on like YouTube or something, because what if YouTube goes away? And then at least if it's a DVD or Blu-ray, and the power goes out, or not the power, but the internet goes out or something, I can like watch it.
Yeah.
Or if YouTube dies, I can still watch it. But
I had to learn that the hard way. So I had a roommate. There's a deadbeat that lived here with me for a little while. Lost his job, had no interest in getting one, and basically.
So he's here. He's listening. So ominous.
Was I rooming with Zeus?
But you stopped Zeus's movie. That's what you get.
Okay. We have
Finish the movie.
So we're going to pause to go watch the rest of Clash of the Titans real quick. But no, so while he was here, he bought a bunch of movies off of Comcast. Like just straight up bought them. So there was like 5 titles that he paid $25.
But he bought them on the cable service.
Yeah, so I had to pay for them. And then when he left, he was like, well, I mean, you get to keep the movies. And then we stopped using Comcast. And guess what? The movies go with it.
Yeah.
So I'll never do that shit again.
I think YouTube is generally safe enough that I'll buy some movies there. And it's usually ones that I don't have much of a choice otherwise. And especially ones to be like, I'll watch this one again. Or like sometimes it'd be like when we were looking at Leprechaun. Leprechaun cost the same amount to buy as it did to rent, and you still only rented it. just funny to me.
I just don't think I'll ever watch it again. I mean, let's be real.
I know.
It's going to cost me more in like that data space in the long run. I just wanted it to, drift in and then go away.
the fuck away.
Yeah. But this movie is definitely it's worth a watch. Just for the fact that that girl, Tree, she's so adorable. I think the storyline's really good. I can't wait for you to see the second movie because they do a good job building off the first movie.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. What would you say your favorite part of the movie was? Or maybe not favorite part, but like what engaged you most?
I was just trying to like figure everything out. I don't know if there's like any one part that's sticks out to me more than others. I mean, the montage was kind of fun. It's like when she tackled the Danielle girl and they both got hit by the bus.
Yeah.
I don't know how you cross her off the list because that was unrelated.
Yeah, I mean that was a reach on that one, but I guess it was just where she was at the time.
Just pissed.
Yeah, like I honestly I thought of that too. It was kind of like, okay, you both got killed in that instance.
How'd you cross off the list?
Yeah.
Well, I guess because you woke up. Is it because so if she'd stopped the killer and then died, would it be over? Would she be free?
That's a good question.
Or is it her death every time that just kind of keeps bringing her back?
So
Because we don't know why she's stuck in this loop. It's not really kind of like with Bill Murray. He's in a loop, and one day he lives the perfect day, and he's out. And this one, she solves her murder and stops the murderer, and then she's out.
Yes. Well, I mean, they even did that trope of her having the perfect day.
Mm-hmm.
She was like the perfect person having a perfect day.
And then you're like, oh, like, it seems like it's over. I'm like, it doesn't. It's not a super satisfying ending. She did like all the good stuff, but it doesn't feel satisfying for me. And then she wakes up the next day, and you're like, okay, cool.
Well, they even leave it dangling. He's like, well, you killed your murderer, you know, but we don't know how he got freed. She's like, yeah, I guess we'll never know that. And it was like, okay, loose thread.
Well, did you hear what I said at that point in time?
What?
It's like, it's almost like it's the roommate.
Actually, I did hear you say it. Yeah. And I didn't, I don't know if you looked at me when you said that, but I did not look at you. I was just like, watching the TV.
I had roommate pegged from the beginning. Because, again, the roommate was creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she looked at your license. That's I looked at your license. It's your birthday. I was expecting her motivation to be different.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be more of like, how come you're looking at all these guys but never me? And she's just like, I have to get rid of you. Or something. So I was expecting that aspect of the motivation.
That's not bad.
Well, I'm kind of glad they didn't necessarily go that way, because that's kind of a trope that doesn't need to necessarily exist either. They're like, I can't have you, so I have to kill you. I'm like, But, and then they always made they showed her at the hospital. So like, she works at the hospital. And then they also made a point to show her never eating the cupcake. There was even that one time when she had locked herself in the room and she was watching TV, and it kept like, she was like, oh, so I'm finally gonna eat this cup, and it just never happened. So they always made a point. And then during the montage, they never bring up her at all. So I'm like, okay, they're keeping her a suspect.
Yeah.
And then they brought the killer in, and I'm like, oh, I hope this isn't the guy. And it kind of seemed like he was, because he came out and he pulled the mask off. He's like, hey, it's me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but then they also did the whole thing where she was like looking in different places and finding masks. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like
yeah, it's just the school mask or whatever for the Bayfield babies.
Yeah, something like that. I like their thing though. Go baby, go. That's good stuff.
Go baby.
Yeah. But yeah, it was one of those flicks that like literally when Tim was like, you need to watch this movie, like I did not want to watch it. And it reminds me of when Joe asked me one time, he was like, have you ever seen Boondock Saints? And in my mind, Boondock Saints was like a movie from like the 40s or 50s.
Okay.
One of the ones I would like watch with my dad, kind of a thing.
It's like from the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Like late 90s.
Yeah. Or maybe even 2000s at this point. I'm not sure.
You keep making your point.
But yeah, it was one that I just did not want to watch. And then finally one day I just watched it and was like, holy shit, Joe, that movie was amazing. He's like, right? Mm-hmm. And then that was the lesson I took. So when Tim was like, you watch this movie, I was just like, meh. And then I was actually thinking about it. I was like, well, you know, you were surprised with like these movies. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and sat down and watched it. And by the end of the movie, like right as the credits started rolling, I called Tim immediately. I was like, dude, that movie was fucking dope. He was like, right? He goes, well, and I think the reason he told me to go see it is because I think the second movie was just coming out in theaters.
Okay.
So I ended up meeting him at Northwoods Theaters, and we watched it, and like we walked out of it just like, you know, I don't want to say anything for the review because I don't want to color anything, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. I'm glad you finally got to watch it.
Yeah, it's fun. Again, I don't know that I'll necessarily revisit it. Maybe like in a couple months I'll be thinking about this movie again, rewatch it, and just be more into it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's like I don't want to talk about too much because,
I mean, just in looking over like some of the people to be like, do we recognize this guy? I see like scroll past Happy Death Day to You. I'm like, okay, apparently he's in the sequel, so I'll stop looking at IMDb.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I don't want to talk about too much because like there's stuff that's going to happen in the second movie that I don't want to bring a lot of attention to at this point. Mm-hmm. So this could be a shorter episode. Sorry about that. But I mean, it's how do you draw an hour review out of a movie where it's like a good 60% of it is the same day over and over again with like minute changes.
Yeah. It was just, and it's it's a mystery movie, and we could sit here and digest like all of the, or like pick apart all of the, here's the clues for how you know it's this person. But I mean,
yeah, just go watch it. My favorite part of the movie, and I know this is very juvenile, but is when she belches, mm-hmm. and he's like, oh. And she's like, that's nothing. And like she farts, and he's like, okay. And she's like, well, it doesn't matter. You're not gonna remember it next day, anyways. That part was hilarious. Mm-hmm. But like, I love the girl's commitment, like, to the character, because you could tell, like, at the beginning of the movie, she's just a hateful person.
Yeah, she's just. Yeah.
And she goes to desperate person, and then she goes to I don't give a fuck person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
we kind of get the sense that she's just kind of like, I don't know, beaten and just unhappy, just because you're like, I guess miserable is probably the word. Like her mom gets murdered, like what was it, 3 years ago, something like that.
Yes.
And so she's just been kind of like gliding through life and trying not to talk to her father because then
I don't know.
She'll accidentally remember
that it brings up the bad memories.
Yeah, so she's just purposely keeping herself away from her father just because she doesn't want to think about it. And then when she does talk to her father, it's all like, "Oh, how's your day?" And just kind of like surface level, meaningless stuff.
They do the small talk so they don't go into sensitive territory.
Yeah.
I don't think she got murdered though. I think she just passes away.
No, she got murdered by the guy, the killer.
Her mom got murdered by that killer.
Mm-hmm.
How did I miss that?
I mean, I think that was the implication, right? Like I didn't. They keep showing a girl with mom, and then like here's this guy, and then they line up with like here's all of his victims. I thought the mom was one of the victims.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I mean, that's what I took from it, and that's why she immediately went to that's the guy. It's because that's the guy that killed my mom. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it's like I think in one of the previous days she saw like the cops sitting out the room and everything like that because like she caught that little glimpse of him before the power went out.
Yeah.
And then she watched the full report the next day and she's like, "This is the guy that." It's like
I mean, maybe I took the wrong impression from it, but I thought that because I didn't remember the mom's face well enough to know that like when they showed up the lines of faces, I thought she freaked out because one of them was her mom.
I think it was because she was his type. And it was a bunch of college girls that he went after and killed. So she's like, "This got to be it." Especially after she exhausted like the list of people that it could possibly be. Not really. It's kind of a half-assed attempt. I thought the interesting thing that they did in the movie was where she was basically taking damage.
Yeah, and I just kind of stuck with her a little bit.
Yeah, it did its damage, but it like the actual marks weren't there. It was like internal bruising essentially. I thought that was kind of an interesting little twist on the story.
Yeah, just to kind of show that like you can't do this forever.
Yeah,
you kind of got to figure this shit out sooner rather than later because eventually it's all going to add up to you being like full on dead.
Yeah, it's you're beautiful outside, and then like your inside is like scarred, broken, and bruised. So I did think that was neat. The care, I believe there's a lot of care that went into writing the script because there's a lot of continuity. Like every time I watch it now, I look for continuity issues, and I keep coming up with the most minor things.
Yeah, I mean, you're generally going to only come up with minor stuff. Like today, when she was in the dorm room, she got out in 3 minutes, but like the next day, she got out in 1.5 minutes. But then she still made it out at the exact same time.
Yeah,
and you could try to pull that shit apart, but that doesn't matter.
That's true.
It's like the outside is waiting the extra 1.5 minutes for her to show up when all that stuff would have rolled on just as quickly. Like she wakes up and she runs out.
Yeah, and the dude with the glasses is like already in the dorm.
Yeah.
Or he's like still halfway across walking down the alleyway, depending on how much fucking around she did in the beginning. But
so I think you just kind of like trim that shit and just kind of don't pay any attention to it, which is, don't pay. That doesn't matter.
And they kind of do that in one place. Like there's a point in the movie where she's like stays inside a little extra. And then like when she comes back out, like only the girl is there with the pen, but like the dude that walks by her initially, like he didn't walk by her. Or he was already like walking into the building.
They had one day when she rushed a little bit forward and was slightly ahead.
Yeah. So.
But even then it was only like she's 5 seconds ahead rather than the 5 seconds back when she normally sees everything at her usual pace. But again, most that stuff doesn't really bug me all that much.
Hey man, did you get that fine? Yeah, like that. I wish he would have had a bigger part in this movie.
Which one?
The roommate. But he has a much bigger part in the next movie. So, but we won't talk about that. So, Nick, would you refer this movie?
I probably would.
Yeah. To
certain people, anyway. I don't think I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, watch this movie," or certain people maybe.
I don't think your dad likes it.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Right.
I showed him Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He wasn't super impressed with that one.
Really?
He's like, "That's a weird movie." I'm like, "That movie's so funny."
We got your friend. Oh my god, that's such a good movie. I am so happy I got to introduce Amber to that one because I was like, "Oh man, we need to go watch this movie," and she's like, This has got Alan Tudyk in it. She's like, And then she watched it and she's like, "Holy shit, that was a great movie."
It's a good movie.
So
weren't they supposed to do a second one?
I think they talked about it, but then I think Alan Tudyk got really big. So he might be a little too big for his britches at this point.
I don't know. He's still doing chickens.
I went to Juilliard. It's my favorite quote in all of those YouTube videos. Him doing chicken sounds, and then he's just like, I went to Juilliard. And then he's just like, the absurdity in his voice when he says it. I would definitely recommend this movie to anyone that likes to just have a good time. Like, if you want to get in the right mindset for this movie, smoke a fatty, drink like
Or don't.
3 or 4 beers,
Or don't.
or do, and just sit back with like a couple of buddies and like turn it on. This would have been a great movie to lampoon because it's just
No, I mean it doesn't take itself too seriously either. So it's not like you're like getting one out on the movie like, "Hey, we gotcha."
Yeah.
Which is what I think is one of the more fun things is to take a movie that's not a comedy and then
Make it funny.
Make it funny.
We're gonna have to watch like Passion of the Christ or something like that.
That's just torture.
Yeah, it's
Porn. Torture porn, as it were.
I've never seen it, but a buddy of mine, when he went and saw it, and I was like, "What'd you think?" And he was like, "It was a fucking snuff film."
Yeah.
I was like, "Was it that bad?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fucking bad." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I just never bothered.
Yeah, I don't care.
What was the one that had Harvey Keitel in it as Judas? Was that Passion of the Christ?
I don't know.
Because I might actually have seen it. Like over at Steve's house.
Man, if I want to watch a fun mythology movie, I'll watch Clash of the Titans again.
It's like I remember Harvey Keitel played Judas in something. Because there's like a part of... so one of the stupid little things we grabbed onto is... what was it? Harvey Keitel was in Get Shorty. Have you ever seen that?
The show or the movie?
The movie.
I think I have, but I don't remember it.
Well, he used to say "fuck you, fuckball," or one of the characters in the show said "fuck you, fuckball," and like he thought it was a tough sounding line, so he adopted it to himself, and then immediately got his ass kicked. And then he was Judas in one of these Jesus movies, and like whenever Jesus comes back, Jesus is like liar, traitor, and my friend Steve went fuckball. He said fuckball, and we all fell on the floor laughing. But yeah, he might have been in Passion of the Christ. I'm not sure. Anyways, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Although it's going to bother me. So I'm going to stall.
And talk
as long
very slowly.
As long as I can.
While I scroll.
The bridge.
Slowly.
Hey, he was a National Treasure.
Yeah, he was. He was the FBI agent.
I don't remember that. So... how was your day? See, I don't even remember when Passion of the Christ came out. This dude has done a lot of fucking movies, yo. Did a movie, Fairy Tale, a true story?
No, I did look up Boondock Saints. It was 99.
Was it 99?
Yeah, so pretty much right between the 90s and aughts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to take this straight to the... We're going straight to the mat on this one. What movie did Harvey Keitel play Judas in?
According to Los Angeles Times,
The Last Temptation
of Christ. Okay.
Next 3 films and their collaboration with...
Is that the same movie?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that from what I remember, that was actually a decent movie.
No, I don't.
So go watch that one too.
I can't give you my recommendation. I've never seen it, and nor will I ever plan to.
Hey, Nick. Have you seen The Last Temptation of Christ? It's not even my turn.
It's not even your turn. But also, that's one I'd throw right in the right over the old shoulder. Be like, what was that about Transformers?
Okay, fair. All right, well, we're gonna cut this one short just because.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and a comedy. You can't. I don't think you can really talk about mysteries. I don't think you can really talk about comedies. Because can you see this one coming? I mean, I did, and I thought they were like, oh, I guess they were pulling. It's like, hi, it's at Z. Man, we never introduced. I'm like, okay, that seems lame. I hope that's not real. And then it turned out not to be real. And it was the person I thought it was. I'm like, okay. The clues were there, and they weren't just kind of like.
They're subtle.
They weren't like, aha, we got you, we tricked you. You're saying they were subtle enough to be interesting.
Yeah, like for the most part, it was subtle. Like I personally didn't see the turn coming initially, and then
Yeah.
Well, see, I can't.
And then the comedy moments, you could say like, oh man, it was really funny when she was shoving fries in her face, but you got to see it.
Yeah, yeah. So go see the movie.
Yeah, it's at least on Prime Video to rent. I think
It's
you,
on your.
you got to rent this one.
It's most likely on your buddy's Plex server. I'm not trying to take any money out of whoever's pocket. Was it Prime?
It's you can rent it.
That guy's fine. He Bezos doesn't need your $3 on this one. Just watch it on your buddy's Plex server. It's a really good movie.
Or rent it on YouTube or something like. You can rent this one. Like find it, rent it. If you're a fan of horror comedies, go buy it. I mean, this is one I would probably buy. Like a 6 is buy worthy to me.
So I'll make you a Lance guarantee. If you buy this movie on DVD and you don't like it, I'll buy the DVD from you. Until this thing hits about 14 views. Then after that, eat my shorts.
He'll buy 2 copies, one for himself, one for me.
Yeah.
And then we're done.
Yeah. And then I will intentionally watch it until off every computer on campus I can until we hit 14 views, so I don't have to buy anybody else a DVD. But go watch the movie.
Yeah.
And have a good time with it.
Which means it's time for a question.
Did you run this past me?
I did run this one past you.
Okay. Is it the one I'm thinking you're going to ask me?
Hey, Lance.
Yeah.
Have you seen *Malignant*?
I have not.
Okay. So this one came out on HBO Max. It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an HBO Max subscription, you can watch it. It is. I watched it when it came out, and then people were kind of talking about it. So I think it's talk about worthy.
Okay.
So I also think it's one I'm going to come over and we're going to watch because I think it's more fun to watch this one together than it is to watch it separately.
Is this an Annabelle movie?
That's a good question. It's not.
It's not? Okay.
It's its own thing. I think it's by like a director that did something notable, but it's
For some reason, I'm thinking Annabelle whenever I think about it, but...
no, it's its own thing.
So I saw, it's like, I had a premonition, because we haven't really talked about this for a couple, but like I walked through a store earlier and I saw like a person sideways with like a big black thing going towards...
With a knife coming towards the eye.
And I saw that it was *Malignant*. I was like, oh yeah, that's that movie that Nick wants me to watch. And then you came over and you're like, I'm thinking *Malignant*. I was like... yeah, what's the odds that that was the one movie that kind of stood out as I walked by it?
How many times have you thought of a movie that like maybe Nick will mention this one and it just never happens? It's only noticeable when it
Until it happens.
the time that it's confirmed.
You never notice the black trucks until you buy a black truck and you're like, hey, follow the
Look at all
black
the
truck
trucks.
guy.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I mean, this is one like since it came out on HBO Max,
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of like maybe I'll make Lance watch this one. But there's been other stuff, and I think this one just kind of we watched a nice little slasher movie. Let's go to a nice little horror-ish movie and keep it kind of in genre, I guess.
So I think you asked me a while ago to watch *Malignant*.
Well,
And-
I just asked
and I watched-
I asked if you had, and you ended up watching *Hereditary*.
Yeah, I
And
watched
you're like, hey, I think I
Hereditary.
watched this. I watched *Hereditary*, the movie you wanted, and it was pretty. I'm like,
And you were like, what? And I was like, nothing, never mind. Yeah, but I'm glad it happened that way because I really like that movie too. But
all right. So 2 weeks. If you got HBO Max or someone with an account, go check it out or rent it or something like that.
Yep.
And then join us in 2 weeks and as we discuss *Malignant*, we'll see if he likes it or not.
And we got Labor Day coming up. We've decided we're going to do a movie for that. We've got one picked out, but mention down in the comments what you'd like us to watch as far as like a Labor Day related movie.
Yeah, there's no like big holidays in August where we're like, man, we got to do that. But I guess September 1st is close enough that we can bang one out for that. And then that's probably going to be like the only holiday until Halloween. So is anything else that we will look.
Hopefully Night Teeth 2 is out by that time.
We can always hope for Night Teeth too.
Come on, Hollywood, don't let us down.
Or Halloween.
By the way, I'm sorry I'm yawning so much. It's been a very long day. But anyways,
All right. Well, join us in 2 weeks
or don't.
or next week.
Or if you're watching this and like there's several other videos behind it, I guess we'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So,
We got a back catalog. You can check that one out.
yep.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.